Hi, I'm Kathy Doughty from Material Obsession in Sydney, Australia, and I'm here to introduce my next collection for Free Spirit Fabrics called Earth Made Paradise. This collection is shipping in March 2021, so you've got plenty of time to think about what you might like to do with it. But before you can do that, I'll just walk you through the collection and show you a few of the things that I was thinking about when I designed it. Many, many years ago, Kay Fassett said to me that in order to be really creative, we need to be very observant of the world around us. And I think this collection is just that. It's a series of observations that I've made about the world around me, and considering, in addition to what the world actually looks like, how a fabric might be used. It's impossible for me to design a fabric collection without thinking about making quilts with it, because I'm an obsessive quilter, because I talk to quilters all day long in the shop, and because that's just really how my mind is geared to work now after 20 years in the shop working with people on a day-to-day basis. So Earth Made is really just a celebration of the harvest of the beautiful things that we find in the world. This is one of the key pieces. It's presented here in this really nice little bricky background in cream, and all these beautiful warm oranges and reds, as well as these beautiful and very varied colors of greens. We go from a lime green all the way to a really nice deep forest green. This piece also comes in the Nightfall, which is more of the dark background, which in both cases, these beautiful colorful shapes jump off the background and create the inspiration piece for the collection. And by that, I mean this is the piece that will include all the different colors in every other piece, so it holds the whole thing together in one. And it also tells the most part of the story. The second important piece in this collection would be the tropical vine, which comes in this beautiful warm leafy pattern, and as well as this really lovely green pattern. Both of these are set on the vibrant sort of slate gray stripe, which I think is a very current design feature, to have a motif sitting on a stripe. And I see them used as maybe a binding, or not a binding, a border, or cut up into different shapes in the quilt, or maybe even used as a background for applique. It would look really beautiful to raw edge cut out and collage lots of different flowers on top of this. So you've got a really interesting background with all those shapes on top. I think it's really interesting how the black and white, or that slate gray and cream in the background in both the colorways, actually allows this print to have a bit of separation from the inspiration piece, so that there's contrast there, as well as creating just an alternate feature piece in the collection. I think that's a very strong and very usable piece of fabric that I know you're going to love playing with. In addition to that, I have the wallpaper in the warm and the cool. The wallpaper is, I mean, I always like to have some sort of a stripe or a decorative stripe in my collection. I think you can cut them up and use them as a regular print fabric, but you can also use them as a sashing strip or something to create directional movement in your quilt. The third sort of feature idea in this collection is the actual Earth Made, and I love her. For me, she's a translation of a mermaid, which would be of the sea, and she is representative of the bounty of leaf and growth in our environment. And I see her as a protective spirit now, coming out to sort of say, hey, let's keep this world that we've got in the condition that it's in, and to safeguard the spirit of the earth. And particularly because when I was designing this collection, Australia was on fire. And so I kept finding myself seeking rebirth and green in reaction to the way the world was being destroyed. From my last collection, we had a couple of plaid prints, so I've revisited that in this beautiful foresty green, and then again in this lovely soft warm version. The plaids are fantastic for having a consolidated palette with a graphic impact. They bring lots of the colors of the collection together in in almost a relief pattern. You can see that contrast is created here by the fact that this is graphic and this is a motif, where contrast is created here where this is cool and this is a bit warmer. So I'm always thinking about contrast elements and how we can create them in our quilts. And so the plaid is the graphic, and in lots of other cases we have the warm and cool. We also have this little radiance print, which comes in the teal background and this lovely goldy orange color. These are my version of a spot. They're a very interesting spot. And again, like the plaid, they are graphic relief in the collection. Then there's also the ivy, which comes in this nice, really vibrant green. And then over here on this side, we can see it in a much warmer, earthier kind of color palette. So these are almost neutrals. The contrast within the print is minimal, so that they do read as a very active solid, or maybe just a little bit more active than a tone on tone. For comic relief, and because my passion is always having a bird in my collection, we have the Budgie Boogie. Now, this is a piece that I've been sketching and resketching for a couple of collections. And I just love the attitude of these birds. We've got these great personalities. We've got here, he's very welcoming, taking a bow, come into my, my leafy world. We have a very proud little bird here. He's all chest out and really dominating his space. And so there's lots of character and personality in that print. It comes in that beautiful on-trend coral, as well as in this slate gray, cooler version. But they're very cute, those birds. I'm in love with them. And for a bit of quietness in the collection, we have this brick wall again with the coral, and then in a very neutral cream. So one of the things that I'm trying to do in my collections is to keep in mind that people want to be able to calm it down a little bit. I mean, I like the full-on excitement and the very eclectic mix of all these different prints working together. They all work together on a color basis, but because of the impact and the intensity of each of the individual prints, it has a bit of variation and a bit of an eclectic appeal. So I think that's very exciting. They work together, but they're different in themselves. So each one is a standalone piece or a personality piece for you, or an inspiration piece. But then if you want to use the whole collection together, you've got a lot of options, and it looks really like you put a lot of work into selecting your fabrics. On point to how I actually translate the collection into quilts, I'm looking at lots of different things. I want to give you an example or a direction to have a quilt that's quite simple and easy to make. So this is the free pattern that will come out with the collection. It's just squares and rectangles with a really graphic impact. Your eye is led into the center where the budgies are boogieing, and then it's just a mix of all the different prints in the collection. So that's great for your beginner quilter or your modern quilter that wants to do something that's just shape driven, as is this one, a really nice vertical zigzag quilt, but you can see how the contrast is working in there, where we can go from light to dark and warm to cool, so that those lines pop out at varying levels. I also revisited one of the quilts that I did for my Seeds and Stems collection a couple of years ago. I just love the simplicity of the structure of that quilt, with those great big ovals that allow you to almost highlight each one of the different shapes in the quilt. But then this one's just laid out a little bit differently. And finally, in the examples, I like the repetition of squares and the simple structure of these quilts. So this is just a virtual quilt, so it's not really as clear as it would be in real life. But it's got the plaid in there, which fills those rectangles and squares quite beautifully, offering a bit of relief from the structure of the squares together. But then I started thinking about, well, what if we were to put applique in those spaces, and played around with my organic design templates and some paper copies of the fabric, just to show you that how beautifully it cuts up into shapes for applique. So we've got flowers and leaves and so heart shapes and the birds all in there, and I think they're really, I was actually surprised myself at how much fun they were to do applique with. So this is my Earth-Made collection. It's delivering again, like I said, in March 2021, And I am really looking forward to seeing how all of you creative geniuses out there are going to play with this collection, because I think it's got a lot of opportunity for a lot of different styles of quilters and a lot of different, well, it just has a lot of different potential for a lot of different people. So I'm really excited about it. I hope you're excited as well. And I really want to see what you're making with Earth Made Paradise in early 2021.